Riddle me this. What do you get when Wall Street's dirtiest secrets collide with a meme stock insurgency, a Federal Reserve on the ropes, and Bitcoin locked and loaded like a tactical nuke? Well, you get GameStop reloaded, Powell getting smoked by Trump, and Ken Griffin panic selling real estate like he's dodging margin calls with a flamethrower. And at the center of it all, Bitcoin, the final boss, the truth serum, the endgame. The mother of all supply shocks that will detonate Bitcoin to $1 million. Welcome back, I'm Rustin. This is Project Rocket, so strap in because it's time to send it!
Yeah, it's time to call bullshit.
Bullshit on what?
Every fucking thing.
Hey, let's start with the bombshell. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission just gave UBS a free pass to keep hiding toxic GameStop short positions inherited from Credit Suisse. They literally said, yeah, we know the swaps are illegal, the margin wasn't posted, the system is at risk, but we'll do nothing. Enjoy. Translation, the house of cards is burning and the fire marshal just left the building. These are total return swaps, the same crap that blew up Archegos. Credit Suisse went belly up holding them. UBS swallowed the bag. And now those synthetic shorts are quietly decaying behind regulatory blindfolds. They are hiding naked shorts through legacy swaps, which means billions in phantom shares. And GameStop is the atom bomb sitting on top. Yeah, okay, but what does this have to do with the mother of all supply shocks? Well, let's play this out. What happens if GameStop issues a Bitcoin dividend? Simple math. If the float is shorted 10x and they send out Bitcoin dividends, every single synthetic short needs to deliver Bitcoin that they don't have. And based on the 10x float, we're talking 9 billion of Bitcoin purchases instantly on the open market. That's the trigger. That's the squeeze. That's the MOAS on steroids. And if the short interest is 100x, 99 billion of forced Bitcoin buying. Bro, that's like 5% of the Bitcoin market cap. You want to talk about sending Bitcoin to $1 million per coin? Boom. GameStop could be the freaking warhead. And Ryan Cohen just dropped another $1 billion margin bet on GameStop. This isn't over. It's just starting. I can't wait to see how all this plays out. But meanwhile, Ken Griffin just sold more condos at a massive loss. Why sell now during a bull market unless you need the cash? Margin calls? Liquidity scramble? Griffin front-running a detonation? Something is cracking under Citadel. And when billionaires sell the view, check the radar. All right, before we light this next fuse, and it's a doozy, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp while we take a moment to recognize our friends powering this show over at the Bitcoin Way. You're watching the collapse of the fiat illusion in real time. Don't get caught holding IOUs. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges. Get self-custody. Learn how to hold your freedom money with confidence. Head on over to the Bitcoin Way and begin your journey towards Bitcoin sovereignty today. If you're looking to get started, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that link in the show notes. Guys, you ever try to explain to your friends that the Federal Reserve isn't federal, doesn't have any reserves, and then they just give you that blank fluoride normie stare? Well, not anymore. Thanks to the Orange Pill app, you can stack friends who stack sats. It's the ultimate hub to connect with fellow Bitcoiners, find meetups, and discover every Bitcoin conference happening near you and across the country. And the Orange Pill app Lightning Wallet just went live. Send and receive Bitcoin at the speed of lightning. No setups, no limits, just pure sats and freedom. Bitcoin is better with friends, and now you can zap them instantly, all in one app. What are you waiting for? Download the Orange Pill app today and zap your friends and favorite Bitcoiners, and who knows, the connections you make could last a lifetime. And now, to the main event. Donald J. Trump versus Jerome Flip a Coin Powell.
You've gone backwards and forwards about whether you want to keep Jerome Powell as chair of the Federal Reserve. His term as chair runs on to May 2026. Would you seek to remove or demote him?
Look, I think it's the greatest job in government. You show up to the office once a month and you say, let's see, flip a coin. And everybody talks about you like you're a god. Oh, what will he do? I mean, before, the guy used to walk into my office, he was like begging. He was fine.
But you did talk about you talked about removing him once.
I did, because he was keeping the rates too high.
Yeah.
And I was right.
And you would do that again?
In fact, he actually dropped them too much when I did this. Because I said I was threatening to terminate him. There was a question as to whether or not you could. And there was an article in the New York Times, 2 half pages. One page said I can do it by lawyers. 1 half page said I couldn't. And that was enough for him. And he dropped the hell out of the rates. He dropped them too much. He went so, he dropped them actually too much. Okay. Here's the story. I think that if you're a very good president with good sense, you should be able to at least talk to him. I don't say make the decision at all, but I've been a very successful businessman. I've done really good, much better. Now people are understanding how good I've done because they're seeing it much better than the fake news wants to give me credit for.
It's not just a roast, it's a war.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
I'm not fucking leaving.
Jay Powell gives absolutely zero facts. That Trump wants to cut the rates, and Powell says the debt is unsustainable and we are running crisis-level deficits at full employment. Let that sink in. The economy is supposedly booming and we're already maxed out. This isn't policy, it's desperation. And Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin's a check on both of them.
You know, if I run a country in a bad fashion, in a poor fashion, and my citizens have no choice, if they can't leave, they can't take their property with them, they have to use my bank and they have to use my currency, that's a pretty awful situation, and I have a lot of power, and I might abuse that power. But when the citizens of the country have an option, they can put their money in a bank in cyberspace outside of my control, and they can leave the country with their money, then maybe I'm going to be a bit more thoughtful and maybe a bit more humble in my political aspirations, and I will treat them with respect. And so I think Bitcoin is a balance of power. It's a check and a balance on the unmitigated power of a politician.
Powell's trapped, Trump's cooking tariffs, the dollar's at war.
It's like what you said, Matt. It's, between the power from 5 companies controlling the media, you have wealth inequality that's gone parabolic due to incompetent policies that's being put in place for decades. Mm-hmm. That raises a question about accountability and transparency in this system. The Fed operates in ways that go beyond its constitutional intent, functioning almost like a fourth branch of government that's members are unelected. And in that light, has gold's rise now that the world is globally is paying attention to serve as a kind of audit on that unchecked power?
Yeah, it's the ultimate BS detector. Again, gold is, as Buffett classically said, and others, it's just a pet rock. It stares at you. You pay it to sit in the ground and stare back and do nothing. It does nothing. You're right. It does nothing. You can do swaps. You can do leverage with currencies, with stocks and bonds. It does nothing. It just sits in the ground and stares back at you. But it does one thing extremely well. While everything else is being very busy, it holds its value. Again, I can give 1,000 examples of how that's true. And it is a BS detector. And there is a reason the central banks of the world are stacking gold at record levels. There is a reason since 2014, even before we weaponized the US dollar, central banks were net dumping US treasuries and net buying physical gold. This is even before we weaponized. It's accelerated exponentially since we weaponized in 2022. There is a reason that these things are happening. There are all these countries net settling outside, that the BRICS are rising, that they have their own version of a World Bank and an IMF in the BRICS. Again, it's not going to replace the dollar, defeat America, and the yuan and China are going to emerge as a monopole. No, it's a new global disorder coming where there's not going to be hegemony anymore by the US. There's going to be mess. But it is the ultimate BS detector.
So what's the play? Bitcoin. Multiple nations are now exploring strategic Bitcoin reserves. Tariff money is being proposed to buy Bitcoin, and apparently they're raking it in. Altcoin stashes could be converted directly into Bitcoin, and even the US is now openly considering flipping old gold certificates into Bitcoin buys.
You think that the U.S. will buy Bitcoin for their reserve. That's quite the prediction. Why?
Yeah, at the end of last year, we had predicted that they would hold but not buy, right? That they would formally create a stockpile. And then, of course, in March, they had the establishment of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and United States Digital Asset Stockpile Executive Order, which
How many times did you have to recite that before you went to bed at night?
Which specifically prohibited the government from selling Bitcoin and ordered Commerce and Treasury to find out budget-neutral ways to buy Bitcoin, while simultaneously prohibiting them from buying altcoins and leaving the management up to those departments for altcoins. I think a lot of progress has been made. They were 30 days after that order supposed to have delivered to the White House and the Presidential Working Group an accounting of the government's Bitcoin. We think that accounting has been delivered. We haven't found out yet what the accounting says, but it seems like they're making progress, and you've got Treasury Secretary Bessent literally saying Bitcoin is now becoming a store of value. You've got a drumbeat from Bo Hines and David Sachs, and it just seems plausible at this point they'll buy something. There will be a buy. That's the extent of which I'm.
Where do you think they'll get the money to buy? Because they've been clear with the American people that tax dollars will not be spent to buy digital assets.
Yeah, budget neutral is hard. In a lot of ways, budget neutral is not a real thing. I feel like if cash goes into the general treasury, there's a lot of claims on that cash, let alone reducing the deficit, which the government has made a big point. So to then use any cash to do that. But what you could do is the altcoins that are in the sell-only digital asset stockpile, you could sell some of those for Bitcoin.
There's an opportunity cost in doing that, though. You're essentially having to convince, maybe you don't have to convince anyone, but you're saying, okay, this money that we're getting as a result of selling these assets is best used, in our view, by buying Bitcoin.
Agreed. And I think that's why one of the elegant ways is to take some altcoin or something in that stockpile, which, let's be frank, the government and Congress barely even know that the government possesses, right? It's not like some big pile of money everyone's aware of and wants their piece of. But also, to be specific, you could sell an altcoin in an altcoin BTC pair and never touch cash at all. No cash ever has to flow into the general treasury. Could be an easier way to get to a promises made, promises kept on the SBR.
This isn't theoretical. This is happening. Bitcoin is becoming the neutral asset of the future.
You said one thing to watch in the near term is this sovereign FOMO, you know, the fear of missing out, with some potential countries buying under the radar. Considering the geopolitical fragmentation we're seeing around the world, let's talk about the big U.S. competitors. I mean, who can beat the U.S. to the punch here, and why is that a threat to the dollar?
Yeah, so, I mean, we talked about already with China potentially angling to have some sort of a gold-backed currency. And if they did that, there would be a lot of confidence in that currency, and that would pull away from the dollar. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of, I guess, basically what it is. That's the game theory in place. Now, in regards to Bitcoin, maybe some nations beating it to its punch. We know that both China and Russia, I mean, Russia's been kicked out of the global financial system. What are they supposed to do? Just go die? No, they'll figure out another system, obviously. And so there's a lot of stuff coming out of Russia. I don't know how much we can believe, but where, you know, Bitcoin has been legalized and maybe they're already starting to acquire Bitcoin. They're starting to use Bitcoin. Some of the BRICS nations, I'm sure, doing the same thing. They're all trying to find a new currency. And this is actually, if you want to look from a little bit of a bigger lens, this is where it gets really interesting, because what we have is the world is breaking apart. Since the 1940s, after World War II, the world got much more centralized with the UN and the IMF and the BIS. The world has become much more centralized. And currently now the pendulum is swinging back the other way, and we're starting to decentralize, multipolar. And so now Russia's over here and China's over here and the BRICS are over here, the US is over here. And what's happening right now is they're all trying to figure out, how are we going to do global trade in this era where we don't have a global currency like the US dollar? Each country is now trying to manipulate their own currency. The BRICS are trying to say they're going to start their own currency, which I think is a nothing. It's probably never going to happen. None of those nations will ever trust each other. And ultimately, what the world is going to inevitably fall on is there needs to be what was intended in the Bretton Woods Agreement, a neutral reserve asset. That's what we have to have. We need a neutral reserve asset that nobody can control, that nobody can manipulate, and everyone could agree to that. That used to be gold. Gold doesn't work in the information age. So we need a neutral reserve asset that works that's compatible with the information age that we're in. And the only option for that, the only option is Bitcoin. And I believe that's where we'll eventually settle.
And this GameStop madness might just be the nuke that forces all the dominoes to fall. We are witnessing the unmasking of financial manipulation at scale. The shorts are synthetic, the houses are burning, the debt is terminal, the wars are brewing. But the solution is digital, it's permissionless, it's sovereign. Bitcoin is the exit. Whether it's synthetic shorts, Powell, or China.
China, 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 China.
They can't stop what's coming. And they also can't stop what's coming to Las Vegas, May 27th through the 29th. Don't forget to get your tickets to the Bitcoin Conference 2025, heading to Las Vegas, taking over the Venetian, May 27th through the 29th. This is going to be the biggest Bitcoin event of the year. You do not want to miss it, and the Simply Bitcoin team will be on site, and we hope to see you there. So don't forget to get those tickets and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pap by sharing the Sound Money Gospel. And don't forget to set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin delivered to you daily. Dante and Nico have some heaters coming your way, so stay tuned, and I'll catch you all on Monday. Love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.